But yeah, if you want to move on from that, we can go into Utah Jazz trades and talk a little bit about what's gonna have to happen for these guys to make the next step next season. Last year they were the 1 seed, bounced in the first round. This season they were the 4 seed, bounced in the first round. Obviously, we all know something is going to happen between either Gobert or Donovan Mitchell. That's kind of just come to a boiling point here. The two of them clearly don't really care for each other, or at least Donovan Mitchell wants out of Utah clearly and doesn't like Rudy Gobert. So what's the answer here? Who gets traded? Which one do you build around? I ask you, expert Dalton.
Honestly, it's tough. So I feel like if I was the Jazz executive and I was looking at this, if I had to make the decision, it would be to trade Donovan Mitchell. I think they're equal. I think they're just as good because Rudy Gobert does limit your offense, but he creates an entire defensive system. He's that good of a defensive player. Donovan Mitchell, superstar offensive player, but he's not as good on offense as Rudy is on defense. Granted, Donovan Mitchell is a great two-way guard, so that's really. But I see more as Rudy. I feel like would stay in Utah his whole career, and I think that's something Utah has to value. I feel like even if they trade away Rudy Gobert, I can still see Donovan Mitchell wanting out in 4 years. So
they need to consider that.
And and they can capitalize on him now, which I can jump in my first trade while we're still after we're coming off the Timberwolves. It's actually a Timberwolves trade. And I think this could work. And I think it would be great for the Timberwolves as well. So D'Angelo Russell, Jaden McDaniels, Bolmero, second round and 2 second-round picks for Donovan Mitchell Do you think the Utah Jazz would take that in?
I think maybe they'd want a little bit more possibly, but D'Lo and Jaden McDaniels would be a pretty good haul for him. So honestly, that should be enough. I think they'd be willing to pull the trigger on that because you bring in a guy who can replace your Bogdanovich minutes when he's off the team in a year or two, and also is young and growing and just becoming better each year. And then you could also have your Mike Conley replacement too. So kind of hit 2 birds with 1 stone there for Utah. You get to continue competing, probably still stay in that middle of the top echelon of the West teams. I would imagine even with this move. So I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think it spreads out the offense a little more. I do think if they did this, I'd like to think Jaden McDaniels would effectively move Royce O'Neal out of the lineup, and Jaden would become your power forward. Bogdanovich moved to the 3, which he played for the Pacers, and obviously he was well. I think, and both can shoot the ball. I think D'Lo would take over the shooting guard role, or right next to Conley. I think it doesn't make them any better, but at the same time, you get guys who don't want to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you kick the can down the road. You sign D'Angelo Russell to an extension. He doesn't know. He doesn't have any bad ties to Utah yet, so you got good feelings there. You got Jaden McDaniels, make him feel good about just trading for him and giving him a big role on the team. So yeah, you got guys that want to be there, and you trade away Donovan Mitchell, who wants a fresh start clearly.
Yeah, and I think honestly, I just think about the pairing on the wing with Donovan Mitchell and Anthony Edwards. Oh my God, that would be crazy. The energy.
I mean, those guys are basically twins.
With Pat Bev, I feel like that would be the most interesting 1 through 3 in the league. And I'm not saying the best. I'm saying the most interesting. These guys would be crazy.
Really polarizing. Yeah, I would be. Yeah, I would be elated to see that. That would be really crazy.
That would be insane. But so that's best hope, and that's what I think. I tried to mix them both together, but I got some one more Donovan Mitchell trade here, and this one might be a little bit of stress. So it's to the Hornets. So Donovan Mitchell given up by the Jazz, but the Hornets give up Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, James Bouknight, top 5, 24 protected first round, and a top 10, 26 protected first round. So it kind of moves into more of a reload, is how I'd look at it. You get a solid player in Terry Rozier. Obviously, he's not as good as Donovan Mitchell. You get some young talent in Bouknight and PJ Washington and 2 first-round picks.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to look like a reload pretty much no matter where they trade one of these guys to, just because the chances they get the best player in the trade back is not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
They're going to get some younger guy who maybe ends up being better in a couple of years. But yeah, I think this would make a lot of sense for them. You get a really solid scorer in Terry Rozier, really just a step off from Donovan Mitchell in terms of, I don't know, stardom or whatever you want to call it. But like in terms of talent, he's not really that far off. Like you compare the two side by side, how different are they?
Yeah, it just decisions and really I'd say their one, obviously Donovan Mitchell's ceiling's a lot higher, but you also get guys. Look, I think PJ Washington could certainly play next to Rudy Gobert. I think that would be great. Book Knight gets more time to shine. I think he'll actually get rotation. Plus, you get 2 first-round picks out of it. I think that's a great package to get back for him. And I think on the Hornets side, you get that guy next to LaMelo. You say, hey, LaMelo, here's another superstar. There you go. And I definitely
think the Hornets are looking to bring in a guy like that this offseason.
Oh, definitely. And I think this would surprise a lot of the NBA because you rarely see small market to small market trades like this. And I think Rozier would at least make the Jazz competitive in the fact of they could make the play-in still, especially whomever they draft and how well Book Knight does. And PJ Washington's a solid player. So I think they would
still have a good team in Utah no matter what, long as they don't fire Quinn Snyder. I think that would be idiotic.
Yeah, Quinn Snyder and Rudy Gobert certainly are the cornerstone of this team. I really think that. I think I've loved Donovan Mitchell. It takes nothing away from Donovan Mitchell. I just think maybe his fit in the end wasn't as good. I think you really need an elite playmaker like a LaMelo or whomever else we've talked about.
I don't think Donovan Mitchell it's working out in terms of this team build. Like he's kind of the superstar, got to carry the offense all the time, and he has no passing ability. And it's like, we need either another guy who is alongside him that can do just that as much, like what we have in Boston, or we're gonna have to get somebody who can actually play make, because it's just not gonna work out long term if Mitchell can't create for others.
Yeah, and I don't think they're getting off Mike Conley trade. So.
Yeah, Mike Conley was like kind of the best thing they could bring in there for a while. So they dealt with that, and they're like, well, let's double down that. Hope it works out. But he's just deteriorating. He's old. He's still got good talent here and there, but he's really mailed in some bad games this season when he used to be considered Mr. Consistent, and he used to never get injured. Now he's injured a lot, obviously just because he's getting old. And that's what happens to our stars from our youth, Yeah. Now we're growing up, we're seeing these guys die in the leg injuries and retiring off.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's tough to see, but I think I valued his career. I don't think the NBA actually did, because they're never going to, I guess he may never get that all-star.
I mean, everybody knows he was great. He just didn't get the all-star recognitions, but he was a very good player, and he'll get forgotten over time by most, but he's still part of that infamous or that famous grit and grind group of players with Zebo and Marcus Gasol. Like everybody will remember that group of guys, and he was part of that, so he'll be remembered by association.
Yeah, which is good. But so this last trade is my Rudy Gobert one, and honestly, this is more of a shakeup for both teams. For one of them, it's not as crazy of a shakeup. The other it is. So it's with the Grizzlies. So the Grizzlies actually aren't shaking up too much. They're just, I feel like it would help them out. And then, the Grizzlies are getting Rudy Gobert and Jared Butler just for contract fit for Jared. And the Jazz get Steven Adams, Dylan Brooks, DeAnthony Melton, and a first round and a top 10 lottery, top 10 2023 protected first round pick.
I don't know if it's enough for the Jazz. I mean,
so I don't know. I don't think if the Jazz want to trade Rudy Gobert, I don't think they're nearly going to get enough as if they traded Donovan Mitchell. I don't think other teams understand the value, and I think I don't think other teams, they know they can buy lower on Rudy Gobert because he's a big man, because of his contract. I think and he's
I
not
think
too
everybody
old.
knows he's won 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards and should have won a 4th. And I think that matters. I think certainly there's 30 NBA teams, and if he's on one of them, so there'd be 29 other teams potentially. You just need one other team that's willing to give up a bunch. I bet you could get a bidding war going between a few of them, because a lot of teams are in horrible shape defensively and could look at Rudy Gobert and say, hey, he could literally bring us from garbage to at least average, and that would just ascend everyone around us even further.
Yeah, I'm confident if you put Rudy Gobert on your team, you'll make the play-in at the very least. Get you out of mediocrity. I don't know. So, but with his fit with the Grizzlies, I think it would be great. You clear up with Dylan Brooks gone. You clear up a lot more space, a lot more possessions for Desmond Bane. I think Ja would love having a guy like Rudy Gobert. I mean, you can make an argument it might be a little redundant with Jaren Jackson Jr., or you could say it's going to make their
paint elite.
Unbeatable.
They
not get in that paint.
I think it would just be unbeatable. I mean, him and Jaren Jackson, like, no one would be able to drive into the paint on those guys.
Oh yeah, and I think it would totally fit. Like, Jaren Jackson shoots a lot of he's not an efficient 3-point shooter, but he can spread the floor. I think everyone else on that floor can shoot, and that's proven. That's what Rudy needs, and I think it would certainly help. It may clog the paint on offense a little bit for Ja, but
that's true.
I think there's certainly other things you can do that would work out. I have faith in Taylor Jenkins and his offensive scheme.
Yeah, I feel like with that type of talent, you just find a way.
Yeah, and on the Jazz side, I mean, you get a first-round pick, you get 2 solid players. I mean, Adams is a solid center. He's shown that this year that he's like, oh, I'm still a legit center. And you get a guy like Dylan Brooks, give him more space, be like, hey man, play next to Donovan Mitchell, do something. I don't know. They'll have to figure out their center, but honestly, centers are a lot easier to find than valuable wings like Dylan Brooks. Not obviously at the level of Rudy Gobert, but if they're like, we're keeping with Donovan Mitchell, this is certainly an option, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if I was the Jazz and trading with the Grizzlies, I'd be gunning for Desmond Bane, and I'd probably hope I can get someone comparable from another team if they're not willing to give him up.
Yeah. No, I mean, certainly. There's a ton of Rudy Gobert trades. I just saw this one. I think it was relevant because the Jazz.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted.
No, I hear you. I'm just egging you on.
Grizzlies.
Let's hear the next trade.
No, that's all the Jazz trades I have.
Oh, those are all of them. All right. Well, cool. Well, that's the Utah Jazz. Guys, we're gonna see who are they gonna end up trading. Gotta assume it's either Rudy or it's gonna be Donovan Mitchell. I mean, it's got to be. One of those guys is gone this offseason. So I think it's gonna be fireworks. I love the NBA, but I swear to God, I love the NBA offseason. Like, it's like a soap opera for men. I gotta admit, it's exactly what it is. All the juicy storylines. I mean, Kyrie, who's already in the offseason today, he was streaming, playing video games, and he said, oh, like somebody egged him on about Boston fans. And he said, oh, freaking Kyrie, come back to Cleveland. Like, he started mocking fans. He's like, Kyrie, come back to Cleveland. Oh, Boston, we hate you. Whatever. He's like, all cockroaches. He called the fans cockroaches. And it's like already just adding gasoline to the fire. I love it.
Yo, it's Alec here with Strictly Ball Business. Make sure to subscribe and view our next video that pops up in your queue.